everyone. Today we have a special interview. This is a guy I think is going to be a super important figure in crypto in the next decade or so, and really this upcoming bull cycle and everything. Super big player in the space, and his name is Matthias Mazur. Matthias, it's a pleasure to have you here and everything. Just introduce yourself for the people who don't know who you are.
My name is Matthias. I work directly and indirectly with Aaron and Zoomer, so I'm sure everyone knows or has heard of Zoomer. My story begins really over 20 years ago. I started advertising and building online businesses in Web 1, so this is in the early 2000s. And so my first career was in pro sports. I was, as Aaron knows, and he's heard this story so many times, I was trained as a professional tennis player. I was lucky to be trained by the best coaches in the world. I played directly against some of the biggest names in history now. So Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. In the juniors, I was recruited by Roger Federer's coach, tennis coach at the time. So my first life was really professional sports. I got injured early, and then I went full-time into building online businesses in 2007. Which now being in Web3, we call that Web 1 and Web 2. And so my experience really has been in building mainly digital-based businesses, online businesses in Web 1 and Web 2. And then did that for about 13 years full on. Retired in 2020 during COVID. And always, of course, like many in my generation, a bit older than Aaron's generation, we saw the rise of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So inevitably, I've seen that, but much less day to day than what Aaron and his generation has seen. But yeah, inevitably being in crypto in one way or another, I always had in the back of my mind, if there is another big cycle, I would want to build, because that's really what I've done for almost 20 years now, which is building companies. Built my first business actually when I was still playing pro tennis. So it's what I've done for a very long time. Whether it's investing, hiring, managing, figuring out strategies. A lot on the marketing side. That's really what my experience is building marketing businesses. And so we saw a lot of traction over the last 12 months in crypto, so that opened up the opportunity of building in crypto, and that's how Aaron and I collaborate.
Yeah, and I think when you look at like a founder like Matthias and you look at something like green flags, I think his past history is a super big green flag, because especially even with like the tennis, the tennis thing was, when I first met you, that was the thing that really impressed me the most, honestly, because at the end of the day, that's, to get good at a sport, that takes, commitment, and it's not really a pay to win thing. Of course, you can hire trainers and, yada yada, but at the end of the day, there's a certain level of like dedication, and, you have to be like obedient to your schedule in order to get good at a sport. And obviously, he was a top tennis player and all that stuff, and then very successful in Web 2 as well. But when it comes to crypto, the general thesis, why are you so bullish on crypto, for this upcoming cycle and really just, decades beyond?
I think it comes, so you're too young to remember this, but in 2008 there was the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis.
And I think I was like 5 years old.
So I remember being in LA at the time and seeing in Santa Monica, literally seeing small businesses close down one week to the other. You would walk around Santa Monica, LA in general, and just seeing small businesses close. So it was, and at the time, because I spent the years prior just in sports every day, I didn't really understand what was going on, but I knew it was bad. And of course, reading a lot about it, because I've always been very interested in business and math and economics and history, you understand that the money was broken. And so it was I'd say the first sign of the money being broken, the money system. And so that's when Bitcoin came up, and that whole first wave of very early crypto adopters. And I think there's no going back. So I think number one is really like, why am I bullish, is because there is no going back. I mean, crypto is now used by, I don't even know the numbers, but hundreds of millions of people in the world.
Yeah.
Some countries, if you look at Argentina, Nigeria, a lot of countries transact day to day because local currencies are broken. So it's really permeated into society. So, and there's no going back because regulators now see that they can't stop it, so they have to work with it. That's one thing as a macro thesis. And then of course, the after the last cycle, it did a lot of damage. FTX really scared a lot of retail and everyday investors away. And so, of course, I always hoped, and I think everyone hoped for a big cycle, but there was a point where it was uncertain, in the sense that yes, most likely a cycle, but when and how high.
Yeah.
And so at this point, very bullish is because we're seeing that, first of all, the number has been showing us that we're back in a bull, but also just you can see BlackRock making moves, like big money making moves, and that's always a sign that something is happening.
Yeah, I think that was the really big stamp of approval.
Yep.
The ETFs getting the first initial Bitcoin ETFs getting approved, and I think the Ethereum ones will get approved. And I think even it's very possible that we see in the next decade or so we could see a Solana ETF get approved, and maybe one day even an ICP ETF gets approved. There's already been a European ICP ETP get approved, so that's pretty cool. But I think really with technology in general, so you can't stop it. So in America's obviously taken kind of in my opinion, a bad approach. I think it's going to flip soon, depending on who wins president. But they're starting to realize that this is not just an American game. This is a global game. And if you try to push this industry out of America, they're just going to come to places like Dubai, where we're at right now, Switzerland, where I'm going to be in tomorrow, and Hong Kong. So it's like you can't really stop it and everything. But now let's talk a little bit about your venture you started. You founded a company called CoinRock. So talk a little bit about what you're doing at CoinRock.
Yeah. So the idea with CoinRock Ventures, CoinRock in general was really taking the same approach I took in Web2, which was building businesses and building ultimately a portfolio business, which is what I still have in Web2. So I've because I've built a lot in Web2, I know the ins and outs of building either one company or a portfolio of businesses. And so I wanted to take the same approach into crypto and Web3, which is, okay, let's work on building a portfolio of brands and businesses, in this case projects in Web3. And that's what we started actually recently. It's been booming really over the last few months. But I think the domain name. I think I got the domain name back in February, which is less than 4 months from now. So less than 4 months ago, and in that time frame, we launched a full project from scratch. We're launching the next one in 3 weeks. I mean, we are very much taking the experience that we have and I have in Web2 and building a lot of these businesses, over 20 businesses that I've either built myself or invested in and advised, that are part of my portfolio business in Web2. Same approach in Web3, rinse and repeat. We've done it before, so it's nothing revolutionary. But the approach really is, and this is more the thesis, which you know very well for CoinRock, which is the crypto world is very inefficient, right? There's a lot of money, a lot of liquidity and capital coming in, and at the same time, the builders, there are very few builders that actually have experience building real companies. So there's a lot of money and lack of sophistication. That's our thesis with CoinRock. So we're not necessarily inventing revolutionary, groundbreaking protocols. We're looking at what works and what has potential, but just needs to be executed better. And that's what we do. Is we take existing narratives, we add our own spin to it, and then we execute much faster and better.
Yeah, I think that's something we definitely saw in 2022, the incompetency of some of these founders. We saw FTX blow up. We saw the Luna thing was kind of out of Do Kwon's control. I think he knew what he was doing. 3 Years Capital blew up. They were literally just pulling loans out for yachts. And recently we saw an interesting story that happened with Z Casino. This 19-year-old kid or whatever, and this 25-year-old, these guys ran off with millions of dollars scamming a bunch of people. And in the crypto industry, just kind of like tech in general, there's always going to be a lot of scams at the beginning of an emerging industry. And a lot of these founders, are incompetent. They really don't. Some of them just don't know what they're doing, and they're just basically clowns. So, but now let's talk about some of the projects that are going on that you have going on at CoinRock. Now, just like for some context, basically CoinRock builds projects, and then Zoomer, the company I run with Lucas, aka Blockchain Boy, and Patrick, aka That Investor, we raise the money and then market the projects that CoinRock builds. So that's the dynamic. But let's talk about the first project, Cyclix Games.
Yep. Yeah, so Cyclix was born, the idea was really born in January, so this is four or 5 months ago, so recently. And it's evolved a lot into a launch which was 5 weeks ago, so again, things are moving very fast. Cyclix is, so the idea is really to build one of the top crypto casinos and have a full gambling and casino ecosystem built by Cyclix with the revenue share going back to token holders. That's the thesis. So, for us, it's very much, so we're in that process of building the casino, as you know, because you're involved directly and indirectly every single day.
Yeah.
You know what's happening. But yeah, what makes the difference for CoinRock, and that's why we've managed to get so much interest so quickly, is that we do things the right way. We build the right way. We build very fast, and so we have major tier 1 KOLs who are interested in what we do, just because it's different. We bring a very, for lack of a better word, a very professional approach to building things, which is actually executing and building things. So Cyclix was number one. That's going to be very interesting because we have the first games coming up in a few weeks. We're very bullish on what we're building. And one thing that we talk a lot about with Zoomer is, when you invest in crypto and you buy these tokens and you invest in projects, as an investor, I bought really, my first buy in Bitcoin was in 2017, but really full on since 2020. So it's my third cycle. I've seen the ups and downs. I've seen all the inefficiencies like you have. Many times when you buy these projects, you don't know who's behind these projects, who's being built, who's being actually created. And so for us, it gives me a lot of peace of mind knowing that, we build. I'm very happy holding the majority of my crypto holdings being the project that we actually build, rather than someone else that I don't know, haven't met, or is not doxed. And so for me, it's been very interesting with my co-founder Caius, who's based in Asia. Shout out to Caius that you met here. Yeah, so CoinRock really is Caius and myself, and Cyclix launched 5 weeks ago. We're about 3-4 weeks away from the first games coming in, so that's very interesting. And then you mentioned something at the beginning of the interview, which is the next decade, right?
Yeah.
That's really the vision that we have for CoinRock. I've been around a long time in Web 1, Web 2. I don't believe in quick. Of course, everyone's here to make money, which is fine, but we want to build things that will be around in several years, 5, 10, 15 years from now. Mm-hmm. Can't predict the future, but we can very well predict what we're building today. We know what's coming up in the coming weeks and months. We know that there's a high likelihood of it surviving bear markets because they are revenue generating projects too.
Yep. Yeah, and I think especially for Cyclix Games, I remember in 2022, Stake.com is like the biggest gambling whatever. They did a couple $1 billion in pure profit. So Gamblify is one of those, narrative / industries that's going to print regardless of really the actual casino. Obviously the token's different, but the actual casino is going to make money regardless if it's a bull or a bear market. And at the end of the day, I think, most people watch this probably understand this, but humans are obviously always have been driven to speculate and gamble. So I think Gamblify is an extremely bullish narrative. I'm extremely excited for the games that are going to be coming out soon. It's really awesome. But now let's talk about the next project that's going to be coming out, VaultFi, which is probably brand new. Some of you guys probably first time ever hearing about it. So
yep. Yeah. It is brand new. So we've been thinking about this one and actually planning it since late January. The way everyone knows the potential that DeFi has in crypto, DeFi projects. We've seen, I don't want to name them, but you've all seen them. The potential and the market cap levels that they can run up to. And so for us, we looked at again, coming back to the inefficiencies, right, in different narratives. DeFi is one where, the narrative is very promising, right? These projects run up to the multiple billions in market cap. But when you actually look behind the curtain, what's actually empowering these protocols, there's actually very little backing these protocols up. So we took let's call it the old school approach of actually building businesses, which is what we've done for over 20 years now, building businesses that generate revenue, and the DeFi protocol in this case called VaultFi. So the APY is actually backed by revenue generating businesses, one of which is Cyclix. That's why we launched Cyclix first. And so Cyclix, the revenue of that will actually go and contribute to the APY of VaultFi. VaultFi is launching in 3.5 weeks from now, so we're moving extremely fast. The strategy is all set. Every day, by the time you watch this video, VaultFi might be out. So, sorry?
Or if I post it today.
Exactly, yeah. So, no, there's a lot of very interesting things happening. DeFi has huge potential, as everyone knows, but it was time to bring in something that actually has potential to sustain volatility, which is the main problem with a lot of DeFi protocols. And so the solution we came up with was actually having revenue generating protocols that then contribute to the APY. That's VaultFi.
Yeah, and just for everyone watching, both of those projects are on Ethereum. So I'm assuming most of you guys are on ICP watching this. Unfortunately, it's not on ICP, but they're on Ethereum. And if you're able to go over Ethereum, you should definitely go check them out and everything, because they're going to be huge projects. I'm super, super bullish. And when it comes down to investing in general, it really comes down to the team. At the end of the day, everyone has ideas, but it's really about the people who are executing those ideas. And going from idea to execution is very difficult. And once again, we talked about this earlier in the interview. There's one thing in crypto is it kind of a lot of incompetency within the space and everything. So if you can have teams of people that are able to take ideas and legitimately execute them and deploy and everything, and not fuck people over, that's a super, super strong. It's super bullish, basically. Yeah, but that's all. I think we can wrap up a little quick interview. My camera is unfortunately doesn't have the longest battery.
We'll do another one next time you're back.
But do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Sure. No, I think that overall, and you know this because he's been here in Dubai for 4 or 5 weeks now.
Yeah.
So we've been to a lot of the same meetings together and everything. What's interesting is seeing really the evolution of crypto in this cycle. There's going to be, and Lucas and I talked about this a lot too before they came to Dubai. We are really seeing a shift in crypto where the projects and companies and teams that do things the right way will win. They'll attract more KOLs, and you see this with Zoomer. They attract higher quality KOLs. We see it on the investor side. They attract more money, more investors. And so it's not a theoretical thesis. This is very pragmatic. Teams doing things the right way, building things the right way will attract more attention, will attract more KOLs, more investors, and will attract really more capital in general. And so that allows to build even better projects. So that's yes, we've seen a lot of scams and frauds, and that will always exist in crypto. But there's really space to do things the right way. That's why CoinRock exists, and that's why we're super pumped to have you guys with us and doing things together, because we really, we are on the same wavelength, and we share the same vision.
Yeah, and if you made it this far in the video, I'm going to be gone in Dubai for the summer because it gets way too hot here, so I'm going to be in Europe for summer basically. But me and Matthias are going to be here in September. We're going to be running events at the Bybit HQ here in Dubai.
And other places too.
Yeah, other places too.
Yeah,
so,
Bybit, we did one 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so if you're in the Dubai area or wherever we're at, just pull up to the events. We're dropping alpha, we're dropping sauce. But yeah, I think that's all we got for today's video. I'm super pumped and bullish on what CoinRock and Matthias they have in the timeline and everything we're doing at Zoomer as well. And yeah, thank you for watching.
See you soon.